and start again here. So the last two shelves, oh no, hang on, I missed one. PC Engine games. This is a wrestling game that came with the machine, and this is a recent game that I picked up, and it's a Japanese style, like feudal Japan. It's not exactly samurai, but it's that kind of thing. It's like a platformer, side-scrolling beat-em-up game. I'll have to do a video of that soon. Right, so these are the Master System games, and yes, I do own Master System games. I'm not a big fan of the console. I think a lot of games, they look like bad Mega Drive games and bad Amiga games in a lot of cases, but I think there are some good games that came out for it, like the Sonic game. I really enjoyed this. I played this before I played the Mega Drive version, and it has a very different feel to it. And I think difficulty-wise it's quite simple, but I suppose it's almost like a kid's game, and that's not meant to be a bad thing, but I think, you know, even as young children we could enjoy that game. Sonic 2. Yeah, I bought this for the Master System converter for the Mega Drive, and I bought this on the same day that I bought Sonic 2, so this would have been 1992, I think it was like September 1992 when Sonic came out, and I bought this from Beatties in Meadow Hall. It wasn't Beatties, it was their game shop that they had next to it. And yeah, the guy at the shop thought I was mad. He said, why would you want this when you could buy the Mega Drive version? But I thought, well, I like the original Sonic, and I was not impressed with it. The difficulty just seemed really... I mean, there's nothing wrong in having a hard game, but it just seemed so hard not to make it fun. And not in a way like Ghouls and Ghosts. It just somehow didn't feel right. And I think it's a subjective thing. I know a lot of people are quite fond of it, but it didn't work. Whereas I thought this was a much better direction. And I think this... When did this come out? 92? 93? 93. So it's probably one of the last games to come out in Europe. It's a real shame that the later Game Gear games didn't come out. Like, was it Triple Trouble? That would have made a really nice game to really conclude this series of games. Castle of Illusion. I like this. I remember playing this before I played the Mega Drive version, and I loved it, and I still do. It's similar to the Mega Drive version, but it's got completely different levels, so I think if you've enjoyed the Mega Drive one and you want a bit more, then it's probably worth giving this a try. It's a really good game. Land of Illusion, again, it's another late Master System game. It's more of the same, it's just visually a little bit better. Not so keen on the music. Donald Duck Lucky Dime Caper. Again, another Disney game. I mean, you know, three really good games. I don't think Disney made them. I think they were licensed to Sega. I think Sega made them. But really good titles. There's another one as well. Is it Deep Duck Trouble, which is might have even been 1994, a very late game on the Master System. It's quite hard to get hold of. Asterix, another good platformer. Did Sega make this? They may have. It's a similar style to these ones. Master of Darkness, that I've looked at before. It's like Castlevania, but it's the Sega. Well, it's almost like a Sega version of Castlevania. Possible Mission. This is really a classic from the 8-bit computers, and it feels like that. For better or worse, visually it's not as good as the ST version or the Amiga version, but it feels like playing a C64, which is nice. SCI, and not Chase HQ. I do like Chase HQ and SCI, but I didn't like the version of Chase HQ on the Master System. It looked a little bit too primitive. And World Grand Prix. Now this is a very primitive game. It's one that I got with the base unit, the Master System converter, and yeah, very primitive, very old. Is it 1986? So it's one of the first ones. So it's nice to see, you know, where games came from during the lifespan of that machine, and where they went rather. So this section are the Japanese Mega Drive games. Some of these I got with the machine, some of these I bought later. I tend not to seek out Japanese games. It's sometimes if they're cheaper on eBay, but I tend to go for Japanese shoot-'em-up games because of Hellfire. A friend of mine had a Japanese copy of that, and there was something special about it, and he thought it was a Japanese-only release, and later I realised it wasn't, but we used to play it through a Game Genie, and it seemed really special to be playing a game that you couldn't get in the West, and I think that was one of the only original ones I played. There's not many games I've bought on a whim, and this is one that I don't think I've ever played. And I don't like doing that. I don't like buying games that I'm not going to, well, I'm not going to play, but that I don't play very much. I like to think that, you know, I don't like the idea of collecting, hoarding. I like the idea of, you know, having games to play. And if a game doesn't get played for many years, then I don't like that. That's just me. This is what was called World Cup Italia 90 in the West. It's on the Mega Games collection. It's very much like Micropro Soccer. It's very early, very primitive, but it's nice to play now and again. Castle of Illusion. This is the Mega Drive version. Really good game. I preferred this to World of Illusion. World of Illusion was one of the first games that I had on the Mega Drive originally, and I loved it visually, but I just found it got a bit boring, and it was a bit slow, and it was a bit short to finish. But this game I thought was much better game. In Sector X. So shoot 'em up. Where did I get that from? Probably York again. Yeah, they were selling a lot of these off quite cheap. Really hard game. I've only got about halfway through it. But I love the artwork on the box. Yeah, I think this was based off an arcade game. Thunder Force 2. This is probably one of the only recent Japanese games that I've bought. I got this off eBay a couple of weeks ago, and it's in, you know, mint condition with the manuals and that kind of thing. But it was like a 5 o'clock in the morning auction, and I noticed the time, and I thought, I'll put a couple of quid on it, and I got it for like £2.50. And I suppose you do get lucky if you get these early morning auctions or late night auctions. Strider. This was another Cash Converters game. Really nice artwork. Lawn Boys Post was talking about this a couple of days ago, and there's games that just glare. Yeah, I just don't get the artwork on it. I don't know if this Sega thought it would have intimidated Western audiences having this very Asian design, but I don't know. I think there's a lot more, particularly with the advent of anime, I think it's more attractive now, and I'm sure if a game came out that looked like this, it probably would sell more copies. I don't know what they were thinking then, just don't know. Yeah, really nice artwork. It's a really good game, this Strider. Monaco GP2, what can I say about that? If you played the first one, you played the second one. This one I've had quite a while. It's Sonic 2, but it's what's called the Asian version. I don't know if it's the Japanese version, or whether this was a version that was meant for places like Singapore and Hong Kong. I'm not entirely sure. But the game's exactly the same as the Mega Drive one. It's not the beta release or anything like that. Shadow Dancer. I don't think that sticker was put on in Japan. I think this was probably sold in the shop at some point. This came with the machine. And again, Longboy looked at this. It's brilliant artwork. I mean, it just feels so Asian, which is, well, I like anime, so yeah, can't argue with that. E-SWAT. I've never played this. This is another one of my games of shame that I really should play. I've had this a long time in the set, and yeah, I can't really say much about it. I know it has a good reputation, so shame on me for not playing it. Whip Rush. Now, I get this confused with Arrow Flash, which is down below. This is a game that I bought. I remember where I bought this. This was from Chesterfield. I bought this, oh, was it that long ago? 2000, because I bought Black Books with it. It had just come out, the film. Although I didn't buy that from Game Station. Really nice artwork. I mean, I don't know if you can see it. Very anime style. Yeah. So it's 2D shoot 'em up. Can't get very far. I think I've only got to the second level on it. I get confused with Arrow Flash. You start off kind of around this planet and then you go way down under the sea. It's really nice experience. Another charity shop special, Star Control. This is a really deep game. It's one where it's a bit like Galactic Civilizations, sort of, but very menu-driven kind of game, and it's in a cardboard box, which is, yeah, I'm glad this has survived because it's been moved a few times, and it was from a charity shop, so they've obviously, whoever's donated it has kept it in good condition. Skid marks and Micro Machines. These are, I'll just show one of them. With the PAL games, I don't really want to go into that much detail with them. I'll just show what's there. But this is a Codemasters self-made game, so it's got its own set of joypad ports. So the idea is you don't need to buy an adapter to play it in 4-player, and Super Skid Marks is the same. Right then, okay, next shelf. As I say, this is going to be a long video, so if you're bored at this point, you just want to see the hardware, watch the next one. So this is Virtua Racing. I think that was one of the first games I ever looked at. Virtua Fighter 2. I'll just quickly show this. If you got Virtua Racing, this had the SVP chip and, you know, polygons on the front, and the game doesn't look that good, but it kind of gives an impression. You know, it's a 3D flat shaded polygon game. But with this, Virtua Fighter 2, you'd think, particularly as they've emphasised all the edges, that it's polygon based, and it's not. It's 2D, and it's weird in the way it plays. It doesn't look like Street Fighter, but they've kept this parallax scrolling on the backgrounds, on the floors, and the game plays exactly the same as Virtua Fighter 2 does, except it's animated in 2D. The only problem, it's got a really big lag on it, which means it's very difficult to get your moves performed. But it's worth giving that a try if you get to see that on a collection at some point. It's well worth giving a go. It's very faithful in gameplay. Dino Dini Soccer, that was a recent pickup. I remember seeing that back in the day, and I thought that looked cheap. Just the garish colours on it. I'm not sure if that comes through on this video. And I remember seeing it and thinking, oh no, this must be rubbish. I didn't realise it was the spiritual sequel to Kick-Off 2, so shame on me. I saw the talk by Dino Dini at Gameplay, and I thought I really should play that game. Mega Bomberman. Toy Story, yeah, that was Traveller's Tales. It's a very late Mega Drive game, and I can't get very far through it. I think I managed to get to the first boss, but later on you get these like FPS style graphics. Really impressive what they did with the hardware. Probotector, Premier Manager 97. It's not a game I would have bought. It came with, I think it was a pack of games that I got from a car boot, and I've played on it a few times. I'm not really a fan of football games, but I do like to deliberately play games outside of my comfort zone now and again. Desert Strike. So these games I mentioned on my birthday video, so my wife bought me these 3 as a pack. And Desert Strike I've played before, and I've played that quite a bit. I really enjoyed the game. Jungle Strike, less so. It doesn't quite feel right. Something doesn't feel... I'm not sure what it is. It's hard to describe. I'll have to do a gameplay at some point. Urban Strike I've yet to play. I really want to finish Jungle Strike before playing that. Populous and Powermonger. This is where... one of the reasons why I would choose the Mega Drive as a Desert Island console, because there were a lot of really good games that came out on the Amiga that got ported, and I think particularly with Powermonger, it was stretching the CPU of the Mega Drive. It's a little bit slow in the way that it moves, and the Amiga version I remember being a bit faster. I'm not sure why it doesn't perform very well, but it's a good game. That didn't come with a manual, and I really regret that because there are no instructions in the game and it's really complex. Road Rash, well, it is what it is. I'm not a fan of the sequel, so I only bought the first one. Lotus, now this is confusing. This is Lotus 2, this is Lotus 3 on the Amiga, and yeah, they speak for themselves. Cruel Bolts, pinball game, bought that from Retroplay shop in Manchester. The games there, how to put it, they've got a really nice selection of games, and a lot of them are in really good condition, but you do pay a premium for them. So they're probably they're cheaper than resellers on eBay, but they're not as cheap as you could get on you know, if you get a bargain on eBay. But it's probably worth having a look and see if they've got anything you know, at the cheaper end. This is NHLPA hockey. I need more coffee. This was a game I wouldn't have bought. If you'd have asked me a few years ago, I wouldn't have bought this game, and I might have even looked down on it. But I saw this being voted as, you know, the best game on the Mega Drive, and I looked at the justification why, and I've gone through this before. It's because it's a game that is just so varied. It's very unpredictable, and it plays differently every time, which you could say for most sports games or fighting games. But I thought I'd give it a try, and I was converted. I really enjoyed it. I really got into the game. And there've been, I think this is the second version, the 93 version. I think it's part 2. Whereas we've got here NHL 94. That is similar, but they got rid of some of the fighting. So I decided to get those two, because some people say that's the better version, some people say that that's the better version. And then I decided to get 97 because that's the last one that came out in Europe. There is a 98, but that was an American only release. I'm not sure if there's that much difference, to be honest. PGA, again, really enjoyed this game from when I first played it. A friend of mine had it, and we used to play it lots. And I always think back to this game when, you know, you think sports games aren't that good, and it's not true. But there are. I mean, I'm not really a fan of a lot of sports games, but which is silly because I've got quite a few. But I think I'm quite selective in what I play. But I do enjoy a PGA Tour golf. Part 2 is very similar to the first. So 3 is more of an upgrade. It has more courses in it. It's a nice game, battery backup and all that. FIFA, I'm not a big fan of FIFA games, but I got these two on, it was a car boot, someone selling a pack of them, so I'll probably get rid of them at some point. I don't like having games that I don't play. Gods, that's a Bitmap Brothers game. There was a talk by one of the lead developers, I can't remember the guy's name, is it Matthew something or other, who owned the company, and it was really nice to hear what he had to say about them. So I do like to pick up British games from companies like you know, Psygnosis and Bitmap Brothers and Sensible, that kind of thing. Okay, so the last shelf here, got Speedball 2, another Bitmap Brothers game, speaks for itself. Oh, it's getting a bit dark in here. Strider, Smash TV, I looked at that the other week, Hellfire, and yes, there is a PAL version of this game, and I did not know that years ago. I thought we were elite in the early 90s. Sadly, we weren't. Arrowflash. So probably everything I've told you about Whip Rush is either about this game, and I can never remember the difference between them. I think they're made by the same developer. They might even be sequels to each other. I think a lot of 2D shoot 'em ups can blend into each other, whereas this one doesn't. This is an early game on the Mega Drive, and it's a 2D shoot 'em up game. I originally had this on the Japanese copy, and there were 2 games missing. I've got a Japanese copy of this and a Japanese copy of Thunder Force 3, and they went missing when we moved house a few years ago, and I don't know where they've gone. They're probably hiding in an attic box somewhere. But have a look for the Japanese box art of this. It's really nice. The front's the same, but there's a really nice, horrible looking monster mutant thing, and that really sets the tone of the game, whereas these little screenshots you can't really tell, but there's a lot of graphics tricks that pretend to be rotation and things. It's worth checking out, and I think it makes the game quite original. Castlevania, again another Konami game that finally got a release on the Mega Drive. It's a really good version, and that has a lot of 3D trickery in it. Flashback, it's not the sequel to Another World, but it's very similar, and I think it was published by Delphine. Did Delphine publish the Alone in the... Not Alone. Another World. Another World. It's not Alone in the Dark. Totally different game. Another World. Or Out of This World, as it's called in the US. Lemmings. Strange choice to have on the Mega Drive, and I first played this when I was in sixth form on the Mega Drive. I'd played the ST and Amiga versions and loved them, and I didn't think the Mega Drive version would be very good, but it is. It's really nice conversion, and it's really good in 2-player. Lemmings 2, it's too hard. It's just too hard. Whiz and Liz and Pugsy, other Psygnosis games. You see the owl on top 3, which is Roger Dean artwork, which, if you like progressive rock, you know, Yes albums and that kind of thing, you'll recognise the artwork. Megalomania, another sensible software game. Really nice. I'm not sure about the artwork. I think it doesn't portray what the game is, but it does feel very early 90s. Very nice. It's almost like an RTS, but you've got like elements of Civilization in there. Echo, Quackshot, another Disney game. Not quite as good as Castle of Illusion, but it's enjoyable. Terminator, I've looked at that. This miscellaneous one is another one I got from Retroplay in Manchester, and I remember this from back in the day thinking, Arena games, they don't always print the logo on the side, and I thought this is probably Alien 3. And yeah, I used to have a Genesis version of this, and bizarrely, just from coincidence, it's a Genesis version. I have no idea why, but the version I got was originally from Microbyte in Meadow Hall. That was the first game shop they ever had in there. Long gone. Empire of Steel, another side-scrolling shoot 'em up, which I can remember this because it's steampunk, so it's not like your others. Super Street Fighter 2, Street Racer, Dynamite Headdy. Really good game. Came out the same day as Sonic and Knuckles in the West, or in Europe rather. And yeah, I think it got overlooked at the time. It's by Treasure. It's a game I've never finished. I find it really weird to play. But I think if you're getting burnt out on platformer games and you want something different, it's well worth a try. Darren Walsall looked at that a few weeks ago. It's probably worth having a look at his video because he did a really good overview. Zero Tolerance, FPS game and sequel to Echo, which uses a graphics trick to boost the number of colours on it. And the last shelf is this one, which might be a bit dark. So this is Gunlord, which is a Dreamcast, recent Dreamcast game by NG Dev Team. It's very much like Turrican. This is an oldie. This is my original copy. It's Repton Infinity with the original 5¼ inch floppy disks. I have to give that a try. It was really an editor, but the game, it plays a bit rough. It's not. I think it's probably the worst Repton game. Repton 3 is probably my favourite. Elite. This I got from a charity shop. I don't think I paid a lot for it, just a few pounds. Ow! Ow! Getting cramp. Ow! It's better. Yeah, comes with all the original anti-copyright stuff. This is the Sinclair Spectrum version, which I don't have a Sinclair Spectrum. I really should get one at some point. I don't have a C64 either. Yeah. I'm still on the fence about that, because I don't know if I'd actually use a C64 very much. And these are some BBS software that I got given to me at the Amiga group. There was a guy who came along with a car boot full of stuff and he said, if anyone wants this stuff to go to a good home, you can take it. So it's funny, ST facts, but it's Amiga software. And that is Final Writer on the original discs. What's this? Gremlins. Oh, this is from Retro Gamer magazine, but the original incarnation of it. They used to come with discs. I don't know if it was every month. They had that as well. Emulators. Pretty much redundant. Right, so that's the shelf of games. That's probably taken about half an hour if I'm lucky. Probably a lot more. So in the next video I'll look at the computers and consoles. So thanks for watching and for all your patience.